Just over 9 months ago, I stepped on the scales and saw numbers I didn't like, numbers that I knew had to change. I was 314 pounds. My waist measured 52.5 inches, which meant my body fat percentage was around 48%. My knees hurt almost every day, and I had inflammation in multiple joints. Even though I was climbing at least twice a week, it felt like dragging a fridge up a wall. Fast forward to today, I'm over 100 pounds lighter. My waist is 14 inches smaller, and my body fat, based on a recent DEXA scan, is just under 24%. This video is about how I achieved that. Hi, I'm Gordon, Fat Old Climber, and if you're new to this channel's plotting my progress as a mediocre climber as I improve my climbing, lose weight, get fitter. The content's about climbing, weight loss, using Manjaro, exercise and general fitness, with a smattering of tech reviews every now and then. If any of that's of interest to you, maybe consider subscribing. Since this is a longer than average video, I'll be using chapter marks which you'll see in the description, or you can tab through if you want to skip ahead. Before I get into this, two things. One, a disclaimer. I'm not a medical professional. I don't have any pharmaceutical experience or training. Everything in this video is just based on decisions I've made, having researched the subject before getting into it. I did a lot of research, understood the risks, made my decisions. You should do the same. A lot of what I do is counter to the manufacturer's instructions, but I'm deciding to do it anyway. You should do your own research before you decide to do anything. And secondly, if you're watching this and don't agree with the use of diet drugs or GLP agonists as they're called, or you think it's cheating or the easy way, or want to do some scaremongering about the risks, then I'm not really interested. Feel free to comment if you have questions about anything I've done, but don't if all you're going to do is suggest that people eat less and move more. You may disagree, but to many, GLP agonists are a lifesaver. So, this wasn't an overnight success. It's been 9 months of learning, adapting, putting in the work, alongside a medication called Manjaro, also known as tirzepatide or Zepbound. It's a GLP agonist similar to Ozempic and Wegovy, which you may have heard of. Before I tell you exactly what I did, let me take you back to the start. My journey didn't start with a prescription. It started with a conversation with a friend who told me that they knew someone who was starting Ozempic and was having great results. Around that time, I was also working with someone who told me they were trying it. And coincidentally, a YouTuber I follow, Mark Lewis, posted a video about him starting Manjaro. These three things planted a seed in my mind, and I started doing a lot of research into it. But I still had my doubts. My hesitation was that the drug's main selling point was it was an appetite suppressant. And I knew from my experiences that hunger wasn't my main problem. I found it relatively easy to be hungry or to not eat when I was hungry. My problem was something called food noise, that constant nagging voice in your head to eat a biscuit or a packet of biscuits, eat crisps, eat sweets, eat when you're not hungry. I also don't sleep very well, and I found it very difficult during the night not to eat. It was relentless, and I was sceptical that any medication could address that problem. So, what is Manjaro? Manjaro is a medication developed by Eli Lilly, originally approved for management of type 2 diabetes, and also now used for obesity control or weight loss. Like Ozempic, it mimics the body's natural production of GLP-1 peptides or GLP-1 hormones. But unlike Ozempic, it operates on two agonists. So when I looked into it, it made a bigger difference to weight loss in clinical trials. What GLP-1 agonists do, they help regulate blood sugar, appetite and satiety. They slow down the gut, make you feel full quicker and for longer. And some of the stuff I read suggested they do quieten the food noise. There are a lot of other benefits, things like inflammation and metabolic health improvements, but my main driver was losing weight. The description and all the research I did made me think, let's give this a try. I hummed and hawed for a few weeks, and while I was doing that, I was losing a bit of weight. So by the time I took my first injection, I had already lost 10 pounds. But in the end, I decided to try it. Now, in the UK, some of these drugs are available on the NHS, but to get them on the NHS, you need to be type 2 diabetic and have a relatively chronic underlying health problem. I had the underlying health problems, in my case high blood pressure, but I wasn't type 2 diabetic. So there was no way I was getting out an NHS, which meant the only way of doing it was going to a private supplier and buying it. I was a bit sceptical, but when I looked into it, there are a lot of online suppliers which are basically prescribing chemists. So they are legit. I'm not saying there are none that are dodgy, but there are plenty that are not. And I looked around and I landed on MedExpress. I decided I would get a pen, I'd get the smallest dose, and I'd give it 1 pen. And if it worked, fine. If it didn't work, I would just stop. The impact was almost immediate. By day 2, I could feel the appetite suppressant working. By day 2, the food noise was gone. The first I knew about it was I went to the local Spar because I didn't have any milk for my coffee, and I was out the Spar in the car with my milk before I realised I hadn't even thought of buying chocolate or biscuits, which was unheard of for me. So it was a revelation almost instantly. And in my first week, I lost 10 pounds. And although that slowed down in my first few weeks, I can't remember how much weight I lost with that first pen. I'll put it up here. But it was clear to me this stuff works. And I was then committed. I started upping the doses as you're supposed to. And I was on, and my Mounjaro journey started. The pens are designed to inject 4 doses, but before I looked into it, before I started, I'd already looked into it, and there was a lot of information about the fact that once you take the 4 doses, there is enough liquid for an additional dose. It's called, in the community, it's called the 5th dose or the golden dose, and I made the decision straight away I was going to use this golden dose. Every 5 weeks for me, I got a new pen at the higher level. And I went up from 2.5 to 5, and then I went up from 5 to 7.5. I stuck on this dose for a good few months, 3 or 4 months, and it was working, so I didn't feel the need to increase. What I did was I increased the dosage of my pen, and I used a technique called short dosing, which allowed me to take my 7.5 from a progressively bigger pen, again extending the life of the pen. Some suppliers get very, very touchy when you're not ordering every 4 weeks. MedExpress, it didn't seem to cause them any problem. Fast forward to about 3 or 4 months in, I began to notice that by day 6 or 7, my appetite suppression was failing. So I did my usual, I went into research mode, and I came across a video by Dr. Kevin Joseph talking about changing dosing schedules. Long and the short of it is I started taking my injection every 5 days. I didn't increase the dose. I kept it 7.5, but that made all the difference. If you're interested in doing that, I recommend his video, which I'll link in the description, or looking at a website called glp1plotter.com, which allows you to put in doses and dosing schedules and see the difference it makes. For me, the objective was to increase my dose, so the equivalent of going up to 10 milligrams, that level off the amount of drug in my system, but stay on the smaller dose I was injecting. I've also developed an online calculator, which I'll put a link to in the description, which allows you to do all these dosing and scheduling calculations yourself. So doing that made a massive difference. It allowed me to level off, and a few months down the line, as the drug began to wear off, which it does, I'm now on 10 milligrams every 5 days, and I have a nice level, a nice flat amount of the drug in my system, and I don't get the reduction of appetite suppression by the end of the week. Now, you may be watching that thinking, well, surely getting used to it not working by the end of the week is a good thing. Surely you want to get used to it. And I get that point, but the way I look at it is there's 2 stages of this journey to me. One of them is getting used to coming off the drug, and I'll do that once I have reached my target. Right now, I'm in the weight loss phase. I expect to be in the weight loss phase for another few months. And my only focus is having the drug be as effective as it can be to lose weight. Once I reach my target, I'll start to taper, and during that taper, which I'll do over a number of months, that's when I'll focus on my behaviours changing and getting used to coming off the drug, getting used to hunger and the food noise coming back. That might not be the way that you think it should be done. It's the way I'm doing it. So in addition to that, I've had some lifestyle changes. My climbing has obviously improved, so I'm climbing a bit more frequently, but when I do climb, I'm climbing for longer and I'm climbing harder. I'm working a lot harder. I'm able to work a lot harder, climbing harder things, using my muscles a lot, building strength, building muscle as I lose fat. I've also tried to introduce a lot of other exercises. I'll be honest, I haven't been as successful as that as I need to be, and that's going to change. I've introduced a bit of walking, I've introduced a bit of cycling. If you followed my journey before, you'll notice that there's no bike behind me. That's because it's at a local bike shop getting serviced, and I'm just, rather than focus on trying to use it on the turbo trainer, I'm going to get it out on the road. And walking and cycling are very, very good for burning excess calories, which is what I really need. Diet-wise, I kind of stuck with intermittent fasting. I've been doing intermittent fasting for a long time. I do 18-6, as in I go a period of 18 hours without eating and I eat for 6 hours, mainly in 2 meals. The only exception to that is Sundays. When I climb on a Sunday, I will eat typically some high-protein sandwiches, chicken and bacon sandwiches on the way to climbing, because I need the energy for climbing. At first, in fact, for most of my journey, I didn't really count calories. What I did was I stuck with what I consider to be a simple process. Every day, for my breaking my fast at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I would have a high protein pea soup, and for my dinner later on, I would have a shepherd's pie, both from Tesco's. A lot of people didn't agree with it. What worked for me was the simplicity of it. What worked for me was the regularity of it. And it wasn't unhealthy, but calories-wise, I saw it making the difference. It just meant I didn't have to think about what I was eating, and that's really what I needed at that time. As I said, the exception being climbing days when I would have, instead of a soup, I would have chicken and bacon sandwiches. As I've been getting leaner, as I've been getting closer to my destination, my desired weight, I have been focusing on it more, and probably over the next 3 months, I will talk about this later, I'm going to focus on it even more. I don't want for it to be such a focus that I end up with some restrictive diet that I find it difficult to stick to, but I'll pay attention to it enough that it's something that will be healthy, effective, and I can stick to. As I got leaner, I did pay attention to using a TDEE to know how many calories I should be eating, and I tried to stay in a deficit. I didn't manage it every day, but most days I did, and although I've had blips, my weight has been on a downward trajectory for the whole of the 9 months. As I said, my climbing has changed dramatically. I'm climbing harder. I went from being totally unable to do a pull-up to now I can do pull-ups, weighted pull-ups. My fingerboard training, my finger strength has improved dramatically, and my climbing has transformed, which for me was the main reason I was doing it. So what have the results been? As I said, I started off at 314. Just over 9 months ago, I'm over 100 pounds lighter. Over 90 pounds of that has been since I started Manjaro. My waist has gone down from 52.5 inches to 38.5 inches. And recently, just because I thought, at what point do I stop? I decided to get a DEXA scan. A DEXA scan is the gold standard in body composition, and I knew it would tell me, I knew it would give me an accurate measure of what my body percentage was. If you're interested in seeing the results of my DEXA scan, I'll put a link to that video in the description. But broadly speaking, what it told me was I still had a fair amount of fat, and it was likely to be visceral fat. Now, if you don't know, visceral fat's the bad fat. Visceral fat is the stuff that causes quite a lot of the metabolic problems. Visceral fat is the fat around your organs, and it's the fat that's more dangerous, particularly more dangerous if you don't have a lot of subcutaneous fat, which I now don't. So that told me I need to lose more fat still. One measure that I came across, which was a relatively easy, a relatively uncomplicated measure of body fat, was your weight to height ratio. The scale's here, and you can see it goes from, I started off at 0.75, which was way into the unhealthy zone. I'm now at 0.55, which is a lot better, but still in the increased risk. And my objective is to get below 0.49, which is the healthy zone. Once I get into that zone, I will repeat my DEXA scan just to verify that that my fat percentage has gone down. As I said, my ability to do pull-ups was a joke, and I've been working on that over the last few months, and I can now do 2. I even did a weighted pull-up recently, so it's all working. In addition to that, my inflammation has disappeared. I used to have swollen ankles. I don't. My joint pain has all but gone. My knees are significantly better. They still hurt every now and then when I climb, but generally my ongoing knee pain, gone. It's not without its downsides though. One downside is the fact that I have to suffer almost a constant stream of people telling me how much better I look. And also, I've had to change my wardrobe about 3 times as I moved, as my clothes sizes reduce. I'm now wearing a 38 waist trousers, which I haven't done for decades. So, a drawback, but it's fantastic. As for side effects, there's a lot of stuff out there about the side effects of Mounjaro and the like, and a lot of people do get the most common one, which is nausea, and it goes all the way up to the more extreme. I've thought about doing a video on side effects so that people not only understand what the side effects are, but I need to look into some research about what percentage of people suffer these side effects, because there's a lot of scaremongering out there about it, and I want to try and address that. Myself, I've been very lucky. I have a bit of a dry mouth on the day I inject, and I've had a bit of constipation. Nothing terrible, something relatively easy to manage. And for me, that's been it. I've been very, very lucky with my side effects, and I've been very, very lucky with how effective the drug has been. Not everyone is as lucky. One of the weirdest things I find about this drug is the breadth of side effects people have, and the breadth of effects. Some people, 2.5 milligrams, it starts working immediately and they stay on 2.5 milligrams. Some people, they have to go all the way up to 7.5 milligrams before they even feel the impact of the appetite suppression. Everyone is different. You can't guarantee if you start taking it, it will immediately work as well as everyone else, like myself. There's also been mindset shifts. I feel like my whole relationship with food has changed. Now, it's easy to assume that that's to do with the drug, and it may very well be to the drug. I won't know until I start tapering. But I still enjoy food. I've never had the case that some people have where they can't eat. It's just not on my mind. So I do eat, but I more think of food as fuel now. So when I'm going climbing, I might not feel hungry, but I know my body needs nutrients, my body needs energy. So I tend to eat to fuel up more. And I haven't stuck to this religiously. If I have friends round, I'll eat something fancy. If I go to friends, I'll drink and I'll eat to excess. One of my main notions about this is I'm doing this to have a better life. I'm not doing this so that I can not have fun. So I don't starve myself when I'm in company. I don't starve myself if I'm with friends. But my whole attitude to food has changed. And in the back of my head, I'm hoping that change will have formed new habits which will help me when I start to taper. Snacking is almost non-existent. And I say almost, if I'm here on my own, it's non-existent. But if I've got friends, I'll have crisps, I'll have chocolate, I'll have whatever snacks there are. It's just something, it's become a social endeavour rather than something that's on my mind all the time. What I did, as my body accustomed itself to the dosage and my appetite suppression started to fade, I increased the dose. And that's what people should be doing, in my view. I think it's important that people understand the drug, understand what the drug's doing and work with it rather than against it. So where do I go from here? I reckon from a DEXA scan, I have another 10 to 14 pounds to lose. Not of weight, of body fat. So I may lose that body fat but gain muscle. So I'm now switched from weight to body fat. From my waist to height ratio, I reckon I have another 4 inches, 5 inches to lose around the waist before my waist to height ratio is in that healthy zone. My goal is to achieve those things within the next 3 months. That'll take me to my 1-year anniversary of starting Mounjaro. And once I get there, I'm going to get another DEXA scan just to confirm things. And if all is well, that's when I'll start tapering. Tapering, my plan for tapering is I'm going to slowly decrease the dose, slowly decrease the frequency I take it, slowly get used to coming off the drug. I'm going to give myself minimum 3 months, maybe even 6 months to come off it, but I won't rush. I want this to be effective. I'm not going to just stop it and go cold turkey. That would be catastrophic. The plan is to do this in a controlled way. And before then, in the next 3 months, I'll do my normal. I'm going to do a lot of research on how to come off it in a way that's effective, in a way that doesn't result in an immediate increase in weight. On the subject of coming off it and gaining weight, probably one of the most common pieces of negativity I hear about this drug is you'll be on it for life. As soon as you come off it, you'll put weight on. Now, that is the case. That is the case with some people. For me, the big thing I've got is all the time I've been climbing, about 10 years, I've been very, very heavy. The lightest I've been in all that time is 3 stone heavier than I am now. The heaviest I've been is 7 stone heavier than I am just now. And climbing is hard the heavier you are. So because I'm so focused on climbing, because I'm so focused on the effect, the difference my weight is making, as I'm coming off this drug, I'm going to notice the slightest bit of weight increase very quickly, and I'll be able to do something about it sooner. All the decades I slowly put weight on, I was sedentary. I wasn't really doing anything, and that's where it creeped in. That's not going to happen again. I'm committed to 2 things. Coming off the drug, I don't want to be on it forever, and not putting my weight back on. I want to continue my journey towards improved climbing, and keeping the weight off is vital for that. So what would I say to people thinking about this? Now, I don't give advice, but I do get people asking me about it. And what I tell them is this: it depends. What it depends on is, for me, it's not about being overweight. It's about how long have you been overweight? How overweight are you? As far as I'm concerned, I had struggled with weight for years. For over 15 years, I've been focused on it, trying to lose weight. I've been successful at losing weight. I've done a lot of things: intermittent fasting, carnivore diet, extreme diets, and they all work to a certain extent. They all work for a while, but they all stop working. And for me, that's what I'm trying to defeat. So for me, if you're overweight, if you're very overweight, obese, clinically obese, and you've struggled with it for a long time, if your health is affected, then I don't see any problem with trying it. The difference it could make is monumental. If you put on a few pounds and you think you're looking a bit chunky, then I don't think it should be your first choice. I don't think it should be anyone's first choice. I think a lot of the negative press this drug has got is celebrities, particularly who are a wee bit overweight, getting access to it when they shouldn't be able to get access to it, and going too far. I had a comment from one of my videos last week where someone said, "You're looking really good," which is surprising to me because I thought people coming towards the end of their journey would look awful, which I thought was really interesting. And I think that's down to some of the press we see, some of the publicity photos we see. I won't talk about specific examples, but there are some celebrities out there that look ill and they have what's been described as Ozempic face. They lose too much weight. And for me, it's not about that. This is a drug that can be taken for your health. For me, I genuinely consider it to have potentially saved my life. I was going nowhere. I was massively overweight for a long time, and no matter what I did with it, I couldn't keep it off. And it has transformed my life. And I don't use the word transformed lightly. So if you're obese, clinical obese, morbidly obese, very overweight, and you've been trying and you can't be successful at losing it, I genuinely think GLP-1 agonists are a good solution. Yes, speak to your doctor. Yes. But bear in mind, there are doctors out there that are against them. There are doctors out there that are less informed than some of the people in the community. So it's a no-brainer if you're type 2 diabetic and have other health problems. If you are, speak to your doctor, get on the drug with the NHS. The difference it can make is fantastic. So the sanding advice, speak to your doctor, speak to a medical professional. If they'll speak to you, my doctor wouldn't speak to me. When I thought about this, I tried to get an appointment with my doctor to speak about it, and they gave me an appointment 3 months in the future. Now, I can only take that as what it was about, because I don't have a problem getting an appointment with my doctor when it's something else. So some doctors won't speak to you about it, but if they will, speak to them, see what they say. As far as I'm concerned, the sooner you start, the sooner you'll see differences. But remember, it's not magic. The drug does not make you lose weight. The drug does not cause weight loss. The drug makes it easier to adapt what you do. The drug makes it easier for you to be on a calorie deficit. It doesn't make you lose weight. And if you live a sedentary lifestyle and eat 7 pizzas a week and you think all you need to do is start taking the drug and all that will be fixed, you need to be also working on changing your behaviours. You need to be working on exercising. You need to be working on doing exercises that are not only burning calories but building strength. It's not a magic bullet. So here's my question for you. If you were me, if you were approaching the end of the journey, what would your advice be? Should I taper? I'm determined to taper. Should I come off cold turkey? Is there anything you can think of I should be doing at this stage? Drop me a line in the comments to let me know. If you have any questions about it, one of the problems I have with these videos is almost every video I do, I get a question that I thought, damn it, I should have included that. So I've probably missed something. So feel free to ask me in the comments. Also let me know if you're on it, if you've tried it, what results are you having? If you're considering it and have questions, ask me. Remember, I'm not an expert. My only expertise has been built up from my research in the 9 months I've been on the drug. And if you want to see how my next 3 months go, if you want to see how I got on tapering and beyond, if you want to see how I handle the return of hunger and food noise, then subscribe and ring the bell so that YouTube tells you when I posted another video. If you made it to the end, thanks for watching. I genuinely feel that Mounjaro saved my life. It has been a revelation for me. I've lost almost a third of my body weight and I feel healthier than I have in decades. Thanks for watching, and if you're a subscriber, I'll see you in the next video.